How's that number 6 feel?
No.
Just how good were these Lakers signings? I'm telling you guys, the Los Angeles Lakers are lined up to win the NBA championship in 2021 with a roster that probably would have been the greatest to ever be formed if it happened 10 years ago. In today's video, we're going to be talking about every free agent signing that the Lakers made this past offseason and how they could impact the roster. So be sure to stick around until the end of the video to find out about their biggest pickup of the entire offseason. And with that, let's get started on the video. Coming in at number 11, first things first, it's probably their least impactful free agent pickup, and that'd be DeAndre Jordan. Now, back in his prime, Jordan would be giving this roster a huge boost, but nowadays likely won't get a lot of playing time. He spent his last season with the Brooklyn Nets alongside Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and he grew frustrated with his lack of playing time. Specifically, the fact he didn't even touch the floor much at all throughout the entire postseason run. Jordan will be bringing a veteran mindset and another big body on the floor for the Lakers, who like to run with a lot of size out there. Now on to number 10, Kent Bazemore goes next on the list. Bazemore has never been a true superstar anywhere, but he's always remained a solid 3-and-D player. He has a nice wingspan and can defend multiple positions. However, he's had serious issues with his shooting consistency and ability to put the ball on the floor and create his own shot. So he definitely isn't going to be seeing starter minutes, barring any kind of injury to the Lakers' current starters, but he should be an integral part of this revamped bench mob. Bazemore's three-point shooting should be incredibly helpful this season, though, as last season the Lakers couldn't seem to outshoot teams even if their lives were on the line. Moving on to number 9, next up it's Wayne Ellington. Now, I went back and forth between Bazemore and Ellington, but I ended up giving Ellington the edge here. Both of these guys are crazy similar, but in my opinion, Wayne has been a far more consistent shooter who can dribble, while Bazemore made up for that difference with his length and defensive ability. I think that the two of these players will work great on the floor together, and it could give them a huge offensive spark if their scoring starts to drop. Now, you'll also have to remember that this is a team that has LeBron James still, so even if his scoring isn't like where it used to be, he's still one of the greatest passers in the game right now. Ellington and Bazemore should consistently get open looks out on the perimeter to cash in on. Given how I mentioned Bazemore's inconsistency though, I think Ellington will thrive much more in that role. Just like Bazemore though, Ellington's probably not going to be on the floor with the other starters much unless they just want to mix things up halfway through the year. He's pretty much going to be coming off the bench. Coming in at number 8, we've got Talen Horton-Tucker. The reason he's coming in so low on this list is because he technically wasn't a signing at all. Otherwise, he'd be among the top on the list here. Tucker was a restricted free agent, meaning he basically had a 90% chance of returning to the team in the offseason. The only possible way he wouldn't be returning is if the Lakers chose not to match another offer and allow him to walk away, which they weren't going to let their best young player do. Los Angeles doesn't have a lot of young talent on their current roster, meaning Horton-Tucker could learn a hell of a lot from these experienced veterans. And he also proved the last year and a half that he could be a viable scoring option on a team that doesn't really need one right now. Taylor can put the ball on the floor and create his own shot, while also being able to work some magic in the pick and roll game. Personally, I was seriously impressed with his development in 2020, and I believe that with the help he's going to be getting this season, he could turn into a fantastic player. Next up at number 7, we've got Trevor Ariza. Ariza has bounced around to a bunch of different teams in the past few years, but the thing is, he's always a very impactful basketball player despite his age. Ariza has a level of intensity that manages to boost up his teammates on the floor. He's a typical 3-and-D player who loves to defend high-caliber scorers while always staying ready for an open three-point shot. He's another guy whose style is similar to Bazemore and Ellington, so you can clearly tell the theme that the Lakers were going for at the start of the offseason. Ariza might be winding down on his NBA career, but there's no doubt that he wants to retire as a champion, and this could be the year he finally achieves that dream, and I think he's going to be super impactful for this Lakers squad. He's somebody that probably has one of the best chances to get into the starting lineup every now and then due to his ability to move around positions and accept bench roles. Personally, I'm really excited to see how he fits in with this new crew. I thought he really showed his value when he spent a half season with the Portland Trail Blazers a few years ago. Moving on now to number 6, welcome back, Dwight Howard. This is probably one of those moves that might not actually impact their chances of winning, but I think that his upside totally outweighs that, which is why he's so high on my list. Now, many people may not have remembered, but Howard actually won the championship with the Lakers just 2 years ago in the NBA bubble. He opted to leave the organization during the offseason and went over to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, of course, the Sixers were bounced early in the postseason, and that made Howard choose to re-sign with his former squad looking for another ring. Of course, Howard brings height, defense, and another veteran leader into the locker room. And the team was honestly lacking when it came to surefire centers, and I think bringing Howard back was the best choice that they could have made, and for cheap too. To tell you the truth, I wouldn't be surprised to see Howard in and out of the starting lineup as they kind of experiment with Anthony Davis playing both the 4 and the 5 spot. Hey, quick reminder guys, be sure to stick around until the end of the video to find out what player was by far the best acquisition the Lakers made this offseason. But first, we're on to number 5, and there we have Rajon Rondo. Rondo's another guy who comes back this season just like Dwight Howard. He won the NBA championship with the Lakers alongside Howard in that same bubble season too, and he also chose to leave the franchise in the offseason. Now, he went over to the Atlanta Hawks, but was later traded to the Clippers to help him make a late season push. Those Clippers managed to make it to the Western Conference Finals before getting booted from the playoffs, and that's when Rondo decided to come back to the Lakers over the summer. I don't think he'll get a lot of minutes out there on the floor, but he's a creative passer who always seems to get the most out of his teammates. There aren't many guys left in the league with his level of intelligence either, and I think that makes him incredibly valuable even if he doesn't ever hit the floor. I think it was a fantastic move bringing him back for next to nothing. Coming in at number 4, it's Kendrick Nunn. This was one of the most surprising pickups of the offseason. Nunn was at one point in the conversation for Rookie of the Year just 2 or 3 seasons ago, and he was supposed to be an integral part of the Miami Heat's young core. But there were some issues during that last season. I guess they didn't really see eye to eye, so Miami let him go. And he could have been primed to get a huge payday, but instead decided to sign for cheap to learn behind veterans like Rondo and LeBron. Now, Nunn could even get starting minutes if he shines during their training camp, but I don't think that's likely. He won't be very impactful on the defensive side of things, but man, his scoring potential is off the charts. Simply because of the fact that they signed him for so little, he was arguably one of the best pickups. Next up, it's number 3, and it's Carmelo Anthony. Some of you may wonder why I have this signing so high on my list. Well, the reason for that is because I seriously want Melo to succeed somewhere. Over the past few years, he's shown such a strong commitment to wanting to win basketball games. He went from refusing to sit on the bench to willingly accepting bench roles in order to help his team win ball games. Not to mention, this guy's one of the greatest scorers the game has ever seen. Of course, his efficiency could use some work, but his talent is still very much there. He might be getting old, but we all got a chance to see how impactful he can be when he gets going. Anthony was so important to the Portland Trail Blazers' success in recent years, which is why I know he's going to be great with the Lakers. Hopefully, the guy's able to walk away from his NBA career as a champ. Coming in now at number 2 is Malik Monk. I think I could have interchanged him and Kendrick Nunn, but I thought that Monk was the better signing. He's another young player who's had brilliant flashes on the court, and he was signed for pennies. I don't think he was ever fully utilized by the Charlotte Hornets because when he really got to see extended minutes, he rewarded that team with big 30-plus point performances with high efficiency. His defense might not be where you want it to be, but his handling, shooting, and just overall scoring ability is going to fit in perfectly next to James, Davis, and guys like Rondo. I would expect him to get the starting nod early on in the season unless he's underperforming. Then he could spend the majority of the year coming off the bench, which, to tell you the truth, that'd probably work pretty well for him too. With so many veteran leaders on the squad, grabbing a young player like Monk to learn and progress, just like Horton Tucker, that's going to be phenomenal. Their upper management did just a stellar job by going and getting him in free agency. And now we're on to number 1. Finally, guys, we've got the best acquisition of the offseason by a long shot. The Lakers traded for Russell Westbrook. Yeah, you heard that right, guys. Westbrook has long been one of the greatest statistical point guards in NBA history, but he's recently bounced around teams a little bit. Once he left the Oklahoma City Thunder, he played for the Houston Rockets, then went on to the Washington Wizards, and now he's with the Lakers. This dude is a triple-double machine who can contribute with fast break situations, he's a great passer, and he plays intense defense. Now, Russ makes up for all of his flaws with his heart and athleticism. something that's going to greatly benefit this Lakers roster full of aging veterans. What makes this trade even better is that they really didn't give that much up for him, just Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, and a couple picks. It was the same package that they were rumored to be giving up for Buddy Hield. I think it was just an all-around great decision to make that trade, and now they've got a completely loaded roster to rival the Nets' big three over there in the Eastern Conference with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. I'm telling you, this Lakers squad is going to be dangerous, and I seriously believe that a lot of these guys are going to be picking up their first ring in a couple months. And with that, we'll wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe because it really does help our channel out a lot. Also, remember to smash that bell icon so that you never miss another video. We've got a ton of exciting stuff heading your way, and I'm sure you're not going to want to miss out on any of it.